Yo patrons, it's Johannes from Noisebud, and today I'm releasing Bear 3.01, but it's Bear 3, so it's a major update, and I'm gonna demo it together with Sub, at least in the beginning of this video, because I have a lot of plugins that work with low end, and right now these two are my favorite. And in this, I had created a loop with just like 7 MIDI channels with a couple of synth basses and a drum sampler, and not much of other things. Yeah, some random plugins that stutter things and do crazy stuff. And on the master bus, there's Sub, Bear, and a clipper and a limiter. So it's pretty basic. This is pretty basic, but I'm gonna show you what I use Sub for, and then we're gonna talk more about the difference in Bear from previous versions, and yeah, that's it. So first, the tasks that these plugins have in this context is that Sub is set to you can see here 40 hertz crossover, so that means that this works from frequencies from set the high pass to 20. So maybe it starts at 10 hertz or something and goes up to about 40 hertz and compresses the hell out of that region. So the idea is that Sub creates like a solid foundation for the whole mix to stand on, a really deep low end. And then I add Bear just for vibe, really, to make the low end a bit more vibey. So that are what these are doing. And I'm gonna start in bypass. So keep in track on that bypass button and this bypass button, because I'm gonna play a couple of bars. I'm activating Sub so you can hear what Sub does, and wait a couple of bars, and then I'm gonna activate Bear, and we'll see if you can hear a difference. And if you're on your phone right now, put in your headphones if you have good ones that go deep in frequency, or turn on your subs in the studio, because we're working with low end. And if you're just on your phone, you probably won't hear a difference at all. So here we go. I hope you could hear that. With Sub, we create a solid foundation. So that is not from Bear. Bear does something else. Let's focus on Bear right now. I just wanted to show you that I'm using other plugins to control the low end in this demo. So let's go to Bear and discuss the differences from version 2. And by the way, I set version 2 to free. So all you free followers, go and download it, have fun with it. And you can demo Bear 3. There's a demo linked in the description as well. And for paid patrons, this is yours, of course. And you can download it. There's no manual yet, but there's really few buttons. And this plugin, I think you should set it up by ear, really. So, but I'm gonna just explain what all the buttons are. It's pretty easy, but you can set it up so it does completely different things, which is cool. All right, let's start with my approach when I created Bear 2. Bear is a plugin that plays with harmonics, really, and some really extreme harmonic. It creates like almost a noise-like version, an octave up and 2 octaves up from the fundamental, and that it just kind of fills out the mix or the sound stage in a really pleasant way when dialed in correctly. And when I created Bear 2, or actually the first Bear as well, version 1, I had the idea that it was supposed to be exaggerated when you start to dial it in. So it really did a lot really quick. And my idea was, by doing so, you really hear what the plugin does and what it adds. So you can dial it in a more detailed way and then dial it back. The problem is that it's almost like when you use Ozone, that automatic thing, when it scans the audio that you play through and then creates what they call a starting point, and it just I don't know what they are doing really. It's not that Ozone sounds bad really. It's just that you hardly never recognize the mix. It's just, what did you do? You just smeared out the stereo image, and the feeling that I get that is that they destroyed everything. But if you wait a couple of days and then you A/B listen from the mix to their starting point master kind of thing, then it kind of sounds okay. It's just that it doesn't sound like the mix. So it's not that it's bad, it's just that it's way too much and too intrusive. So if when I use Ozone, which I rarely do, but when I do, then I always turn off about half the modules, the maximizers, the stereo imager, the dynamic EQ. I just turn those off, and then I go to the EQ section and I kind of dial and everything that I have done. I set it to half about. Then I think I have a decent starting point. But what they call a starting point, it's just crazy stuff. And I had the same experience when I used Bear, and that led to that I didn't use Bear that much because it just did too much, and it's not what you want really. So with Bear 3, I take a step away from that. This is way more subtle, and it still does what I wanted Bear to do, and that is creating a vibe using harmonics in different ways. And I think Bear 3 does it way better, but it can be hard to hear, especially if you're a bit tired and you've been in the studio the whole day. Then it's like, I don't hear what it does at all. If it's early in the morning, you probably hear it right away. But it's one of those that you need to dial it in really subtle. So, okay, let's listen to the delta when we go from boost 0 and we start to raise it, so you can start to hear what it adds to the signal or takes away, because it does both. And you can see that if you watch it in a plugin doctor or something. All right, here we go. You can hear that there are some crackles and stuff, and that's maybe I should address that. I don't know, but it's when you turn the boost knob, a lot of things happens, and some of those processes are not made for automation. So that could be good to know. Don't automate the boost knob. That will create crackle at times. I will, I maybe address that. I will see if I find that annoying when I work with it. I haven't so far because I dial it in and let it be, so I don't automate the boost knob. I haven't automated anything in Bear actually. But on the other hand, it's just been on 4 masters so far, so it's not. I haven't used it that much yet. What you can hear when we started to raise the boost is that you recognize the sound it has from version 2 when we are at boosting 12 decibels. And this is completely, it says boost because that's what you do internally. You drive the signal harder into the plugin, but it's compensated in the other end, so you don't hear that level change at all. It's just, it's just internally in the plugin, but I still choose to call it boost because it was called boost in version 2 as well. The knob, however, was placed on the right side. Now it's on the left side. And I added a crossover. I don't remember if I had a crossover in, maybe I had, I don't remember in Bear 2, but you can now set it to work with low frequencies or raise it up to 300 hertz. So you can use it for different things. You can get completely different sounds out of it when you start to use the crossover. Let's turn the crossover a little bit when we in delta, so you can hear what it does. The filter section in Bear 2, this filter existed, but it was always on 100%. And what it did is that it removes, if the fundamental gets boosted, it removed that boost. And this does the same thing, but in this version you can remove that. That means that you can use it like kind of a YB low end EQ. So if this is on 0, we will start to add a lot of the fundamental as well. Let's see if we can hear that. That's cool and fun to play around with. And then we have the cut, and this is actually a pretty simple control. It's a low shelf that you can attenuate, but it's connected to the boost. So depending on how much you boost, the shelf will change form. So if I turn this knob, you can see that the cut gets steeper or higher. So it goes up when we're boosting 34 decibels into the process. It sets a high shelf to minus 6 decibels. And the frequency that it chooses is dependent on the crossover. So it changes with the crossover. I think it's not half of the crossover. It's something like 0.7 times or something like that. I don't remember. But the point with it is that it's supposed to have about the same effect as the filter, but the filter is a liner phase one, while this one is a minimum phase low shelf. So this control is more similar to a normal mastering workflow, while this is some liner phase magic modern stuff. And this will completely remove everything when it's at 100%, while the low shelf is way more musical, or what you should say. It's not as intrusive. It's more, you know what you're doing when you use the low shelf. That's why both of them are in here, and you can use them in conjunction together as well. Let's play around with it and see if we can hear the different kind of vibe that we can create with Bear. So here we go. for this loop, I prefer working with the low frequencies because that sounds more fun and more my intention with the loop. So that's more fun. But I just dial around a little bit so you can hear, and you can hear that it got more like a cardboard box kind of tone when you start to raise the crossover, and that's something that works really well in like guitar based pop or more laid back singer-songwriter stuff and things like that maybe. But with this kind of an electronic track, then it's more fun to play around with the vibe in the lower frequencies. So I have pretty much talked about all the controls. So Bear 3 is way simpler to dial in one way. It's harder to hear what it does, but it's way simpler to dial in. So, and that's kind of the goal with version 3 as well. It's a vibe plugin. It should be used to add vibe, and therefore it should be easy to dial in. Which is when it feels right, you just move on to the next step in the process, whatever that is. But we can talk about some other things here. We have the LU difference here, and that is just the measurement of how the loudness measurement will change depending on what you're doing. So if this shows you a positive number, that means that when it gets measured for its perceived loudness, it will play back louder if this is a positive number. If this is a negative number, that means it will play back at least the higher frequencies a bit lower than the incoming audio. And normally half a dB is fine. If you add low end so that the reading you get, if you should call it punished a little bit, I don't consider it as punishment, then you probably added a bit of weight to the mix, and you perceive that as loudness as well. So it will probably come across as about the same loudness. It will be just warmer. And that's pretty much the whole idea with the plugin. It's supposed to be an easy way to add warmth to pretty much any source. Easier than dialing an EQ or easier than a multiband compressor as well. It's just really easy. I think of it a bit as a magic Pultec kind of thing. It's not an equalizer, but I work with it in the same way. I boost, and here's what comes out, and if that's too much, then I use the filter on the cut to just back off a little. And I dial this in really quickly, so I don't spend more than maybe 5 minutes tops, usually way less, maybe half a minute or something, and then I'm done. Then I go on with the next step in the process. So it's just when it feels right, then you're done. So boost and dial in so you can feel the vibe, and maybe cut a little bit with the filter or the low pass or low shelf, and then you're done. So I'm not going to talk more about this update right now. I have some plans for upcoming functions that I will add to this in the coming weeks, probably. We'll see. And have fun with it. And I see you with the next plugin or update that I come up with. See you later. Bye-bye.